is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come.
Welcome to this, another episode of Wisdom and Knowledge. We are excited and delighted tonight to be sharing with you another episode. You have just a moment to contact a friend, a family member, an acquaintance, or even an enemy, and tell them that Wisdom and Knowledge is on the air and invite them to join us. Let me share with you what will be coming up in the next few weeks. Next Sunday evening, 1 week from tonight, Dr. Kenneth Gilmore will be talking about how to receive the Word of God deep into your soul. We spend a considerable amount of time talking about different teaching techniques and how to present the Word. So we're going to talk about how to receive the Word. It's going to be an eye-opening experience. You cannot afford to miss it. You do not want to miss it. Place on your calendar right now a reminder to take the journey with us. 2 weeks from tonight, Lucius Wallace will be answering the question, to what extent can the church work to shape political philosophy and or select political candidates? That's 2 weeks from tonight. 3 weeks from tonight will be Father's Day. And we want you to give a tribute to your father. Send us a picture of your father, a digital picture. So when you are sharing about your father, the audience will get a chance to see him. Your father doesn't have to still be alive. He can be deceased, but if he made an impact on your life. And someone said to me, what about a grandfather? Well, any male who served in the father role for you will be allowed. Let's do it up. Usually we don't do it so well for fathers. We did it great for mothers. So let's send a tribute out to the fathers. Now that's the 20th of June. On the 27th of June, we will be addressing this question: how to get your financial house in order for retirement. Many people get ready to retire. They have moved into retirement to only find out that they are not ready. They are not ready economically, psychologically, sociologically, etc., etc. And for that reason, they may find themselves going back to work out of necessity. So what we want to do is to get you prepared so that when you get to that point, you will be fully prepared. Now tonight, we're going to do something a little different. Rarely am I the presenter, but I'm excited and delighted tonight to be the presenter. We're going to talk tonight about how to keep your children safe from the police. How to keep your children safe from the police. It is almost unthinkable that that topic needs to be addressed, but it does need to be addressed. Now, I am aware that we will tug on some sacred threads tonight, and I have had numerous conversations with people about matters in this area, and I have been maligned from a number of angles, but that's not new. And I want to address this so that we can make some improvements. I have, in discussing this, even been accused of not being black, whatever that means. So first, let me enlarge and post my black card in full view so that as you internalize what I am saying, you will remember that I identify totally with the minority population who often falls victim to the police brutality and even losing their lives. My father was 50 when I was born. My grandfather was 65 when my daddy was born. My grandfather was 16 years old when the slaves were freed. I am just 2 generations from slavery. My grandfather was sold in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the market house. I've walked around in the marketplace in Fayetteville where my grandfather was sold. Rarely do you get a chance to walk around in the place, or rarely do you get a chance to talk to a person whose grandfather was a slave. Not great grandfather, grandfather. Very likely I've stepped on the very bricks that he may have walked on as he was being auctioned as a piece of property. I was born in the segregated South and have lived most of my years in the deep South states of Tennessee, Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky, and now South Carolina. So please keep my black card in full view. Let me give you 3 underlying concerns, potential facts or factors to keep in consideration that I'm well aware of. 1, very likely there is a Caucasian law enforcement person who joined the department just so he could terrorize Negroes. That is likely to have been the case years ago, and it is very possible that even today that there is a law enforcement person who joined the department just so he could terrorize people. Very likely there is a Caucasian law enforcement person who goes to work each day looking forward to the opportunity to terrorize a Negro. That's very possible, very likely, and under no condition would I ever deny that that may not be a reality. And very likely, there is a Caucasian law enforcement person who did not join the department so that he could terrorize Negroes. Neither does he or she go to work each day looking for the opportunity to terrorize. But once an adversarial encounter arises, he or she then terrorizes to the maximum. In these 3 statements, I've simply communicated to you that there are people who very likely have an attitude that I am joining the force, I am taking advantage of opportunities, I have an attitude and a desire to terrorize people. And then there are those who may not have that attitude, but if the opportunity presents itself, it's too appealing to them to pass up. That's like the child who leaves home who doesn't intend to steal anything. But if he happens to see something lying unguarded, he then picks it up, though that was not his original intent. Now, hear me clearly. Do not dilute what I am saying, and do not distort what I am not saying about males and Negro males and females who have suffered an adversarial assault by law enforcement people. Do not misunderstand what I am saying. I'm going to give you seven significant things to remember. If you go as far back as you choose to go, not one of the people of color who have been terrorized and killed by the police, not one of them deserved to die. Not one of them should have died. And in most cases, they didn't have to die. The officers could have done something differently, but they did not. So keep this fact in mind as you evaluate and digest what I'm going to say. Not one of them deserved to die. Number two, not one of them killed themselves. They did not pull the trigger to kill themselves. Number three, there is absolutely nothing wrong with peacefully protesting. Absolutely nothing with, in the confines of orderly expression, that what has happened may have been a gross injustice. Absolutely nothing wrong with peaceful assembly, protesting in public places to emphasize that something tragic has happened. Number four, there is absolutely nothing wrong with demanding transparency from the Department of Law Enforcement personnel. Nothing wrong, absolutely, with saying we want to know and see by video exactly what happened so that we can draw conclusions based upon facts. Absolutely nothing wrong with insisting that transparency be provided. Number five, there is absolutely nothing wrong with holding rogue law enforcement personnel accountable, up to and terminating, up to and legal financial liability, and up to criminal charges with prison time, with maximum prison time provided. Keep all of these things in mind as we proceed. There is nothing wrong with demanding policing procedural changes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with calling for a change in how law enforcement patrol. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there needs to be some changes. In my estimation, the no-knock warrant should have never been implemented and should be abandoned immediately. The law enforcement personnel should not have the legal right to surprise a law-abiding citizen in his or her house. Now, some would say, but that is designed to arrest criminals. Well, that may be true with the intent, but there are too many instances where the wrong house was bulldozed into, or that criminal may be in someone else's house. And even if the person is a criminal and is unaware that it is a law enforcement person coming in, every individual seeks to protect himself. Even a criminal, hear me well, even a criminal has the legal right to protect him or herself from another citizen who is violating him illegally. If a person has been in prison on a murder charge, if he has been found guilty and sentenced to 25 years in prison, even if he has broken out of prison and is in a legal residence, he has a legal right to protect himself from a person that barges in to cause him or her harm. Therefore, there's just too many instances where the no-knock warrant cannot be managed adequately enough. It should be immediately eliminated. In my estimation, the chokehold should be abandoned immediately. And those two, among many others, probably should have never, ever been implemented. When the citizen has a nonviolent issue, for example, if a person has an outstanding warrant for writing bad checks, or even for thievery, when a citizen has a nonviolent issue, and it is no reason to believe that he or she will physically harm another by violence, lethal force, in my estimation, should be off limits. If a person has some parking tickets, if he has some bad checks, if he has stolen something, but if the reason why he or she is being pursued is not because they have had another person's physical well-being in grave jeopardy, then in my estimation, lethal force should be off limits. If a person has a warrant for some bad checks, lethal force should not be used. We can arrest him on another day. So if he runs away, we should not be at liberty to shoot him, because we can arrest him on a different occasion. Now, I am not critiquing nor criticizing any efforts toward justice or police reform. I'm not issuing any assessment. I'm not critiquing. I'm not asking for the curtailing. I'm not criticizing any legitimate efforts toward justice and police reform. I say go straight ahead with whatever efforts toward justice and police reform that you choose to participate in. But there is a grave fact that stares all of us in the face, and that is this: that what we are presently doing is now not working. May I say that a few more times? That what we are doing now is not working. And the reason I say it's not working is we are still being shot by the police. What we are doing is not working. It's not working. This year alone, 2021, we probably are at a record pace of the number of people who have been shot by the police. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that what we're doing isn't working. Therefore, there are three things that must be considered. One, or one or the other, or all of them. We must do more. Now, that's one of the options, because what we're presently doing is not working. So we must either do more of what we're doing, or we must do what we are doing better than what we're doing, or we must do something else in addition to what we're doing. Now, let me say those three things again. What we're doing is not working. People are still being shot, probably on a record pace this year. and we're just 5 months into the year, not even halfway there. So we either must do more of what we're doing, we must do what we're doing better than what we're doing it, or we must do something else in addition to what we're doing. Now, pay close attention. I propose to doing something else in addition. Now, underline that in your mind. I said, in addition. I am not suggesting that we should stop doing what we're doing. I am not suggesting that we shouldn't work to do what we're doing better. But I am saying we must do something in addition to what we're doing. We must do something in addition to what we're doing. So that's what I'm going to call for tonight. My father taught me how to engage even in adversarial situations. And I just want to share a little glimpse of my personal story. I have endured 24 adversarial encounters with law enforcement personnel. I have endured 24. On 24 occasions, I have had an adversarial encounter with the law enforcement personnel. I have been blessed to come out of each one of them unscathed. I was able to go home every time, but there's been 24 in my lifetime, me personally. So I just want to tell you my story. Now, out of the 24, I want to analyze those 24 with you, and we will see something that's a common ground and a common factor that will help us to make a world of difference for good. I am 100% convinced that it will. One of my adversarial encounters with police were caused by non-criminal behavior. There was no crime involved. I was suspiciously driving at about 5 miles per hour late at night on a street, no other vehicles there. The policeman stopped, pulled me over, and admitted, "You just looked suspicious driving that slow." But there was no law having been violated. It was a 30 mile per hour speed limit. I chose to drive 5 miles per hour. Now, I know you're wondering, why was I driving 5 miles per hour? Nothing legal, no laws had been broken, okay? I could have driven faster, but I chose not to. Now, that's one of the 24. Another one of my adversarial encounters, which is my most memorable adversarial encounter, was caused by the criminal behavior of another person. A person had shot into some people's home. The person who did the shooting just happened to have lived in the community where I lived. As a matter of fact, I knew the person, but at the time that I had my adversarial encounter with the police, I had no idea of what had taken place. 6 police cruisers roadblocked or hedged me in at a traffic signal in Jackson, Tennessee. They pulled me out of they didn't pull me out, but they demanded that I get out of my automobile. They had me to place my hands on my vehicle. They ransacked my vehicle. They would answer no questions from me. They just said, "We had orders to pick you up." They placed me in the back seat of the police cruiser. When I came out of my car, policemen had their weapons beamed on me. They were hiding behind their door because the person they were looking for had shot into some people's house. So he was supposed to have been armed and dangerous. And they thought I was that person. So they treated me as if I was armed and dangerous. Didn't realize how potentially dangerous a predicament I was in until it was all over. They placed me in one vehicle, started to transport me to the city jail. A block later, they discovered that they had made a mistake in identification. They let me out, simply said to me, "You were in the wrong place at the wrong time." I was not in the wrong place. I was there not at the wrong time. They simply had made an identification mistake. I was driving a 69 yellow Mercury Cougar. They were supposed to have been looking for a man driving a green 67 Mercury Cougar. How they made that mistake, I'll never know. But now I did not know why they had pulled me over until sometime later. Matter of fact, it was the next day or beyond before I discovered what actually had happened. Okay, now that's 2 of the 24 adversarial encounters. Now, there are 22 of my adversarial police encounters were caused by my own criminal behavior. Let me say that again. The other 22 adversarial police encounters were caused by my own criminal traffic violations. I was either speeding, I ran a red light once, I had an accident for following too closely, but the other 22 were caused by my own criminal behavior. Hear what I'm saying. In addition to what is presently being done, we need to add and advocate another angle. We must begin saying to the community at large, eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters. Eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters. If you eliminate the adversarial police encounters due to criminal behavior in my 65 plus years of living, I would have only had one adversarial encounter with the police. The one time that someone else committed a crime, 22 other occasions, I committed a crime. If you eliminate criminal activity, criminal behavior, then in my 65 years, I would have only had one adversarial police encounter with law enforcement personnel. Now, remember everything that I've said, and in a few moments, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions and make comments. And don't be shy and bashful. I'm thick-skinned and I can handle it. When we examine each instance of police shootings, going as far back as Ferguson, Missouri, the Michael Brown scenario, etc. When we examine, now don't forget the facts that I've already established. Nobody should have been shot, all of that. Don't throw that out the way. Don't throw that out the window. But when we examine each instance of police shooting, a law or suspected law was violated by someone, which created the call for the adversarial police encounter. If no law had been broken, if there had not been a suspected law broken, if no criminal activity had taken place, then the policeman would have never been in the environment in the first place. Far too often, bad policing and bad policies created a tragic outcome. But all of it could have been avoided if we eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters. Now, keep in mind, I've already emphasized that many of the times the policemen are in violation themselves. They are not following wise protocol, etc. But if we eliminate the need, so what we must begin saying to our community, let's eliminate the need for the police being here in the first place. If we can keep them out of our community by eliminating the need, then in my personal life experiences, I would have only had one. My 24 encounters would have fallen from 24 to 1, from 24 to 1. So what I am suggesting, in every community, we need to establish what I call ENAPE. That's ENAPE. That's letters for the acronym of eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters. So I am suggesting to us tonight that the way we keep ourselves safe from the police is eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters. In simple terms, the best way I know to say that is to say to people in our community, stop committing crimes, and the policemen will not be there nearly as often. Now you've heard it from me. Now I get a chance to hear it from you. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand, or you can type it in the Q&A section. Raise your hand and I will give you an opportunity to say what you'd like to say, or you can type it in the Q&A section. Don't be shy and bashful. We want to give everybody an opportunity to say what you believe should be said. But I am arguing for eliminate. Now, there are times when the person who is killed is not the criminal, but somebody else committed a crime, as it was in my case. If the person in the community had not committed a crime, then the policeman would have not been looking for them. They would have never had the case of mistaken identity, and I would have never been the target of 6 or 7 policemen's revolver. Didn't go off, praise the Lord for that, but I was staring down the barrel of multiple weapons when I got out of my vehicle. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand and share that question or comment with us, or you can type it in the Q&A section. Well, I know that many of you have important things to do. I do want to give you an adequate amount of time if there is something that you would like to say. But if there are no questions, comments, etc., I will then let you leave a few minutes early. But let me tell you what's coming up next week. Next week, Dr. Kenneth Gilmore will be talking to us about how to receive the word. 1 week after that, we will be answering the question, to what extent can the church work to shape political philosophy and select political candidates? And then on Father's Day, we will be doing a tribute to fathers. So send the picture of your father. Start sending that to me now. Send that to my email address, JM, that's my initials, at JDM, that's my full initial, jdmbusiness.com. And we will have that in a PowerPoint so we can share that with the audience on Father's Day. We want to do it up big time for fathers. And then on the 27th of June, we'll be answering the question, how do we get our financial house in order so we can enjoy a wonderful retirement? The program has been recorded tonight. If you'd like to have a copy, send me a note and I will be delighted to get it to you. It's been a pleasure sharing with you tonight. Be encouraged. Well, I knew this was going to happen. Somebody would wait around to the last and then ask a question. Okay. What adverse environment did Dante Wright provoke or Botham John provoke? Botham John did not provoke any adverse environment. Now, I said earlier, don't misunderstand what I'm saying and do not say something that I'm not saying. All encounters are not provoked by situations. As a matter of fact, the one that I told you, there had been no crime. So all of them, but you and I have to admit that when we go through the particular ones, somebody committed a crime. Now, I didn't say that the person who ended up being murdered committed a crime. I did not commit the crime, but somebody else's criminal behavior created the environment for my encounter with the police. I think that Dante Wright is the one when the lady used the weapon and she thought it was the taser. It was either that one or I think it was the gentleman that was shot and he was paralyzed. The policemen were looking for him. I think there was a charge, his girlfriend or somebody. I may be wrong on those two. I may have the wrong person. If I am, I stand corrected, but not all are. However, if we start the Michael Brown case, he should not have been killed. That is not my point. But a crime had been committed or reported to have been committed, the reason the police was in the community. So what I'm saying is it's in many cases criminal activity that brings the police into our community in the first place. And if we, now, whatever you think about this, if we don't do that, if we don't stop bringing the policemen into our communities, then the shootings will never stop. I don't care what we think. I don't care what we say. We can say they should stop. And I don't deny that. Policemen shouldn't come in and shoot folk. But guess what? It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Now, that is like saying people, well, I won't even bring that in. It's unfortunate that it happens. But I'm saying we have in our communities, we have the power to keep the police out of our community. Now, every now and then they ride through, every now and then they provoke. I've already mentioned that. But we have every community has the power to keep the police out. As a matter of fact, many of the police shootings, the policemen were in the community because somebody had called them because a crime had taken place. Now, there's another person who said, what are your thoughts on community policing? I think it's an excellent idea. I think what I'm talking about tonight is community policing. And community policing means we must begin policing the behavior of one another and say to each other, stop committing crimes. Now, let me illustrate it this way. If you are in the military, if you are in a war zone and you are hiding in a foxhole, it is to your advantage that the person in the foxhole with you make no noise, because the enemy is walking by, looking and listening. If the person in the foxhole with you makes noise, he's going to get both of you killed. So you need to police your foxhole and tell your comrade that's in there, make no noise. Because if he makes noise, he's going to get both of you killed. And so that's what I'm talking about. We have to begin policing our own community. And the best way we police our community is to convince each other to stop committing crimes. If I hadn't been speeding, if I hadn't ran the red light, if I hadn't been following too closely, then I would have never seen the police on those occasions. Thanks for those two questions. If there are any others, please, we'll give you time to share. And if you have a question or comment and you'd like to talk privately, hey, I'm game for it. If you'd like to start a chapter in your community where you're encouraging people to eliminate the need for adversarial police encounters, I'm delighted to share some insights of how that can be done and you can be up and running. It's been a pleasure sharing with you tonight. Be encouraged and be blessed. We'll see you 7 days from today, next week, as Dr. Kenneth Gilmore shares with us on how to receive the word of God. Be encouraged.